And welcome back to Backroom Convos. I'm your host, Lesego M, Daddy Waddy Pod, aka Future Short, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy like Cairo. On this week's episode, we have Sethu Nzimande, who is a tech entrepreneur and fellow podcaster. How are you, my brother?
I'm well. How are you?
Glad to be here. I'm good. So, how do you describe yourself to people that don't know you?
All right. Hello, listeners. My name is Sethu Nzimande. I am the CEO and co-founder of a small startup or small tech startup called Seida Tech, as well as a co-host of the podcast Y.H.M.A.D.
Yeah.
Seida Tech is a tech startup which is aimed to actually empower the dreamers of our generation through technology. So we work both with clients in the B2B space around marketing and also web and mobile app development. And they also create content and are really driven within the space of young entrepreneurship, and are building a platform there.
Yeah, so what inspired you to start with Seida?
Basically the whole idea of, we always had the dream of creating, or us as South Africans, or someone, in South Africa, creating something that gets exported in the tech space elsewhere. We're always hearing the Facebooks of the world coming from America and everywhere else coming to us for solutions. But I've always wanted that dream, that us creating something that is able to branch out into the world, and people don't see their lives without it. That's all around it.
Yeah, so I think, I was looking at one of your TikToks where you were saying something, you were giving your input, and you were sharing some of the platforms that entrepreneurs can use as far as get funding or to use to advance themselves in whatever sector of business they are in, and one thing stood out for me to say, this, you are a CEO or co-founder of Seida, and I wanted to find out from you to say, the challenges. What are some of the challenges that come with being a co-founder in the tech space?
One thing's for sure, especially one of the challenges I would say that I've experienced is definitely, especially when you're starting out really young about what you're trying to do, and maybe a lack of experience, but a lot of ambition. You have a lot to learn on a constant basis, and there's a lot of ideas that you think are gonna work, a lot of ideas that you're not sure of. But the biggest challenge, I'd say, is definitely the limiting mindset of what you think you can do or where you can knock on the doors of. I think for me on my side, there's been a lot of times, especially around maybe closing clients within finding new clients and stuff, that we don't used to like going on sales calls or meetings, because I'm what if I don't think I can take rejection and all of that. But I realized that overcoming that challenge has been one thing that is super enjoyable once you get over yourself and get over what you don't know, and you just focus on, okay, let me just grow myself, let me just keep on moving, let me just keep one foot in front of the other, nobody's stopping me, nobody's limiting me. And that mindset is what usually allowed you to overcome a lot of things. It also has allowed a lot of people that I've observed in the past to overcome a lot of things.
Oh, that's great, man. That's great. So, I think this brings me to my next question. I think my mom is the reason I fell in love with entrepreneurship, because she introduced me to entrepreneurship on a very young age. Do you have anyone in your circle who inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
Anyone that inspired? I think my dad mostly. My dad was the one person within my life. He wasn't an entrepreneur himself, but he was the person that had a lot of entrepreneurial ideas. And because of just the way that his life went and his priorities went, he was always strive for having more structure within the house and making sure, everyone is fed and growing within his career and his professionals in engineering. That he always used to impart a lot of not necessarily ideas, but basically ambitions to be like, you can do this without, when you were at a young stage, you don't have the responsibilities and you should. And with that, it gave me that drive, that urgency of let me do this before maybe life gets super serious and I have to consider the responsibilities and accountabilities that I have. So yeah, I think there wasn't really an entrepreneur that really growing up, there wasn't really an entrepreneur that stood out that I knew personally, because I was surrounded around my family about a lot of professionals. So that space, the only entrepreneurs that I ever see was the ones, which were on TV, the Zuckerbergs and the Bezos and the Musks of the world. Yo, those guys really did something from
true,
build something. And
you're still talking.
Yeah, so I think for that, my dad infused me with the ambition, and it basically gave me that mindset of okay, you can pursue what you want to pursue, you can do it. You just have to actually just be principled within what you're trying to do, be in a constant state of learning, and just move forward and keep on growing.
No, I see you. And as you were talking, I was thinking about Silicon Valley and the contribution of Silicon Valley to the success of Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm in South Africa, I've never heard of a platform that contributes in the same way as Silicon Valley did to your Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. Do we have any of those platforms in SA specifically?
In terms of platforms, as in places, I think there is quite a bit of a culture around startup in Cape Town. It's on Cape with it.
What did you call it?
Silicon Cape.
Silicon Cape, yeah. So what do they do?
Basically, there is a certain area, or not necessarily area, but a certain culture around it where there's a lot of startups, a lot of actually tech innovations that go on within Cape Town that get transferred and gets put out into the rest. For example, a lot of big companies that actually service companies that service us now. I think Quicked's based in Cape Town. Is based in Cape Town. All tech innovations that were kind of harnessed there. On my side, I'd always wanted to grow it, get into just that space. But I'm gonna be honest, I'm a Joburg blood through and through. I definitely enjoy the space this side because it feels more robust. When I mean by with Cape Town, it's okay, you can come with your idea and you're most likely gonna get funding and access to that. But where things get done, where people get met, when networks are expanded on, and if you don't have that network, if you don't have that access, if you don't have the way in Joburg, I don't know how you can get into Cape Town. At least on myself and my theory and my experience, that it feels like you have to be at a certain state to actually enter into those doors. And Joburg has the best place to meeting so many people that can truly expand the idea that you have, can get you to the place that you need to get to. And there's so much activity in it that it's for me, that's why I love Joburg in itself. I'd love to be a part of Cape Town, but Joburg just has my heart.
So I just wanted to ask you that you mentioned earlier on the Silicon Cape. I just wanted to ask you that, given that Cape Town, people are having discussions around the racism and all that, and I wanted to find out from you, as someone who's that side, in those platforms such as Silicon Cape, do you ever experience maybe the racial segregation, to say maybe there's people who are given this access because of the color of their skin. Have you experienced any of that? Because
no.
Yeah.
I'm not within the Silicon Cape community, and I'm not in Cape Town. I'm definitely based in Joburg, but from my experience with a lot of things around there is, of course, we both know this. There is, like, you know what I mean? This is
Sure.
Which is rampant that side, and I do think that it does have a place. It does have an effect. One thing I've definitely felt and realized that it feels like, I don't know, there's a level of legitimacy when there's whiteness within whatever startup you're in. And as a result, different doors get open. I'm not complaining. That's not something that I stand for. It's not something that I choose to see as a hindrance to any form of success, because it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, there are some people who have white skin and who aren't also successful. And there's been a lot of Black people that have succeeded, that have created the most out of their situations. But one thing I've definitely noticed is that there is always that level of legitimacy that, like, when you see it both in LinkedIn and stuff, that it's like, yo, people would much rather be within the space of, like, you know, businesses and tech startups that are, like, you know, headed by more white faces, because it seems more legitimate and authoritative than more Black ideas, because it feels like more, I don't know. It feels like there's a difference. It feels like when you're successful as a Black person, especially within tech, it's Black excellence. Yet when you're in a white person who's succeeding in tech, it's just, you're just, you know, successful. Feels like there's a mainstream and then there's a sublet of, like, which I don't believe that to be the case. I don't. I think that's.
So, like, looking at the tech space, do you think there's enough entrepreneurs in the tech space in South Africa?
Yeah. Oh no, nah. As in, do I think there's enough people?
Yeah, like to say, like, guys, there's a market here, and I wanted to bring in something else within this, and I was like, yo, I think should BRICS actualize? I think there's a huge opportunity for every industry, and given that you're also in tech, you're one of the people that can bridge some of the gaps that are there as far as tech, you know what I mean? And by saying that, I'm like, oh, okay, there's that opportunity, but do we have enough people that are in the tech space to actually service the gap? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people within the tech space on different levels. Some might not be at the quality that maybe you might be looking for, but there is still a high number of individuals that always have aspirations around it, or always pushing within that space, who are looking or who always has an idea that they want to build onto and grow into. But for us, it shouldn't be a hunt for increased amount of people or Black people within tech space, but rather it should be an increased amount of solutions being created for the problems that we face as South Africans.
Interesting.
It's like one of like we can have a mountain load of Black people coming in within the tech space, but if they're not providing value, if they're not creating value for the rest of the world, because that's what made stuff click, especially within, like, Silicon Valley in the States. They were creating that was rippling outwards to the rest of the US and internationally. You know what I'm saying? And being said, those solutions being brought in, it's what created the value, and it's what created Silicon to be the way that it is, the innovation hub. Even though now there's multiple different places that are building up in that space, even in Africa in itself, like Rwanda is really going at it. Nigeria has passed us completely. Like, people are way more willing, international people are way more willing to invest in Nigerian startups, especially Nigerian fintech startups, than South Africa. And it's like one of those things where clearly there is a level that we need to be at as South Africans to provide the value. You know what I mean?
And
it takes us to be aware of that.
No, I hear you. So I think we need to go on to an ad break. So for those of you who just joined us on the line, we have Sethu Nzimande. We've been talking about everything tech. We've been with him for the past 15 minutes, but when we come back after the break, we'll ask him some of the questions around the challenges and if we have enough resources to to challenge some of some of the giants in the tech space around the world. So when we come back, there's that to talk about. I'm your host, Lesego M, the Y Report, aka Future Short, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Cairo. So let's meet after the break. Cheers. Welcome back to Backroom Convos. I'm your host, Lesego M, the Y Report, aka Future Short, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy like Cairo. Listen, on the line we have Sethu Nzimande. We're talking everything tech today. So before we left, before the break, we were talking about Silicon Cape. We're talking everything around tech. And before we went on the break, I wanted to ask you, Sethu, that why do I keep on saying Sethu? I don't know. Yeah, I just became aware of that now. I'm like, wait, why do I keep on saying that? It's Sethu. I apologize for that. So I just wanted to ask you a question before we went on the break. To say, do you think we have enough resource to challenge some of the tech giants in the world as Africans?
As Africans?
Yeah. Like how? So I'm saying resource, there's some of these like big platforms like your Amazons, like your Facebooks, those are like platforms that are international, and I'm like, when you look at some of the things like the click banks of the world where it's a huge platform for affiliate marketing, and Amazon also has that platform as well. But some of these, such as a platform like ClickBank, they don't allow this. I'm not sure about ClickBank though. They don't allow some of like the third world countries to participate in affiliate marketing, and I'm like, do you think we have enough resources to create some of these platforms for our African people so we can also implement some of the similar, ideas that they have for the West, but for our African people, and in hopes to alleviate even the poverty that's all around Africa. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I think, with that being said, I don't know if we have enough, like in terms of resources, because it takes like a lot around that. But one thing I do think we do have the resources for is to solve our problem. You know what I mean? Like, as Africans, as South Africans, I don't think we should be focusing on creating our own Facebook, but rather creating maybe platforms or social media platforms that highlight stuff that can advance us as South Africans, as Africans in general. If we focus on that rather than creating nationalized platforms, like for example, a South African WhatsApp, that's not going to work. I don't think that's going to work, because the stuff that we create, we're not more attracted to something because it's South African, because at the end of the day, that definitely shows for our consumption of film and music, because you make our own music and our own stuff, but like, because it's like, international is just international, that it usually gets rating. But when something is uniquely us, that's when it grows. That's why there's more production. We consume piano a lot, because it's uniquely South African. It feels like us. It answers our questions. It answers our requests for music in terms of grooving, in terms of feeling. The same thing can be said in terms of tech. When we're building something, we shouldn't something to compete with a juggernaut, because that'll never work. It just won't. They have millions and billions of development behind themselves. They have billions of users. They have basically marketing association with a lot of people that people just usually associate with that. People rather go for something that they know rather than new things. Like, it's going to be very hard to create a music streaming platform that beats Spotify, because we're so used to Spotify and Apple Music. So we shouldn't be challenging the monopolies of this world, the Amazons and stuff. We should be creating solutions for ourselves, which will allow us not necessarily to outshine them, but to solve our own problems. And that is what grows everything, because it creates an outside effect that just creates a chain reaction for more development within the country. Hence why a lot of even hence why a lot of South African ride-sharing startups, in my opinion, aren't doing well. They're not capturing the market as well as they should be, because just trying to be a South African Uber, when in actuality we need something that solves the problem of what we're trying to do, or what within the space, because that's what people focus on. That's what guys focus on. So on our side, as a team at Seida, we always try to focus on the solution, focus on understanding the people that we're trying to impact. That's is this a whole lot of nothing? Because creativity plus problem solving is what creates innovation, not just something new. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean that it's innovative, because it has to solve a problem in order to be deemed innovative.
Yeah. No, I hear you. So how do you define entrepreneurship? When someone says I'm an entrepreneur, in your mind, what's that? How do you define it to yourself?
I would define it, I think for me, my business idol and role model, just probably a lot of young South Africans, is Sethu Nzimande, actually, who define it as entrepreneurship is creating a solution, basically, of a solution. That's entrepreneurship. You can have a franchise that doesn't make you an entrepreneur. You can resell product that also doesn't make you an entrepreneur. But if you're creating something uniquely your kind of way, and you're building it out for it to grow, and for you to not necessarily work within it, but to, be absorbed of the day-to-day and allow for the system to operate without you, then you're an actual entrepreneur, instead of just a self-employed person. That was something that I really learned from him, and that he was and I realized when I heard it, I was snap, I'm definitely been self-employed for a bit. I think say it in a sense of being self-employed. And when I got into the state of expand yourself into step out of your factory and work on the surroundings and work on not the day-to-day, then you're truly being an entrepreneur. If the business can run without you, not necessarily without you, but doesn't need you in the factory making the sausage or making the clothes, you're an entrepreneur. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I do. You were saying something.
No, I'd say otherwise that's just being self-employed, which a lot of us are, and a lot of us need to be, which is, I don't know, I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of, actually.
I think it's,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think... So, I just want to add on to what you were saying about Lucy. I think one of the things that I remember when you were saying whatever you were saying now is that he said, and I found this very profound, he said there's a difference between people that work in the business and people that work on the business. And I'm like, oh, that's so dope, because a lot of the people that I see that are self-employed work in the business and not on the business. And I think he made a perfect example about your Pick and Pay and your hood corner store I think something along those lines is like there's a difference between that. And I think he made an example about his father. He's like, my grandfather had puzzle shops in the same street, the same time the guy Y.H.M.A.D was opening his shops. But Y.H.M.A.D is doing so much millions per year, and my grandfather's business is no more. It's because my grandfather was working in the business and was working on the business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I think that's what truly separates you from a lot of people. It's for you to think about solutions that advance the business. You know what I mean? So and I'm like, I think that was very important for me to highlight. And I'm like, I want us to talk about a bit about BRICS, and I'm like, there's a lot of potential opportunities that come with the actualization of BRICS, and you being someone who's in the tech space, what are some of the the potential opportunities that you've seen for your own
within BRICS?
Yes, like what do you think are the potential opportunities within that?
I'm gonna be completely honest, I am not too sure. I see definitely the growth in terms of trade relationships on an international scale.
Yeah.
I do see that, especially for BRICS, and it does cause a lot of I don't know for sure if we or me being in the state that I'm at, in the state that my company and a lot of entrepreneurs that are within the community and people that I know are truly going to feel the difference of. I don't know, from the research, and we actually had a whole talk about this in our podcast. You had me at Damn, its episode was in it, which in itself it was like definitely explaining the good of it, but like also it's like one of those things where like not a lot of things are gonna change for us. Like,
yeah,
in the realest sense, a lot of big people are going to make big money, but little people in itself, it's not like it's breaking down borders. It's not like it's making possible. It's not like now there's going to be more people from other countries coming to us. Everything's going to still operate the quote unquote same, and we need to be reaching out for the international opportunities. But I don't think BRICS kind of affects us within the tech space, or small tech, or like, medium, or like, growth, like early stage tech companies. I don't think it's really going to make a bit of a change, but there are changes in the international space that actually helps us. Like, there's opportunities of French embassies that are creating entrepreneurship programs, especially for Africans and South Africans. Those actually give us a light. Like, I have a friend, Tibia Sumalema, who's actually his company is called Gamers Territory, which creates a game there, trying to bring gaming into the townships. And he's one person that grabs the opportunity of being part of the programs around there, and now he's in the Middle East, in Tunisia, for like pitching a founders boot camp and all of that stuff. And that's the opportunities that we have to look and keep our eyes open for, but I don't think they're going to be open or unlocked due to BRICS. I might be wrong. It's my opinion, and something that me and a few people have observed.
I do hear you. So, like, what's your take on people that are going internationally to, advance themselves, or like to acquire relationships internationally, living? To say you're in the tech space and person B is also in the tech space, but person B decides that, you know what, I think I stand a better chance in this tech space if I'm internationally, if I'm in the US or in the UK. Like, what's your thought around that?
I think there's pros and cons in terms of that space. I mean, with being internationally bound, one thing's for sure is that if you're internationally supported but locally like solving of problems, I think that's going to be a huge advantage. Like, if you have international support spaces within the US and all of that stuff, and built up relationships within that space, while still solving problems here, that's going to be a huge help But if you're going to maybe the international space because of maybe you think that because, South Africa is not growing in the way that it should be, then it's not going to be helpful, beneficial. I think it's all focused on what your idea is. If you have a startup which is within the astrophysics space, SA might not be the best place for you. There is maybe that is being developed and all of that, but it depends on what industry you're trying to be in and truly understanding the problem you're solving and the places you are. Like, it's one of those things where as much as you can say that, okay, now starting maybe a ride sharing company internationally or overseas to start a ride sharing company might be, in my opinion, difficult because of the stronghold of many other ride sharing companies and stuff. And when you go to those international places, I think you're a bit on the back end of things because you don't really truly understand the culture that's being around there. And you need to understand the culture, you need to understand the people in order to solve whatever they're facing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so no, I get it.
I'm always in the space or the mind of the common person, or solving problems for the greater population. But then startups and companies that are centered around making solutions for bigger or higher level thinking, like those astrophysics and the basically startups which require a lot of funding, require a lot of attention, and require a high level of expertise in order to execute it. Like, you could never start a Starlink, not really a Starlink, or like a what is Elon Musk's SpaceX in SA?
SpaceX, yeah.
It's way hard, way more difficult.
Yeah.
But it's like, it all depends on what you're trying to build, in my opinion. That's like, if you know what you're trying to build, and you know the people that this is going to help, it's going to solve, or having that connection both to your people and also to the investors. If you could be raising funds in, like, internationally, like in the UAE and other places which have billionaires, which have proper venture capital, venture funds and all of that stuff, and can solve problem in a market within your local place, which I think is the goal, is the dream for any South African, or should be the dream for any tech entrepreneur South African.
No, I
please. Yeah,
I'm saying I definitely agree with you. So for those of you who just joined us on the line, we have Sethu Nzimande. He is a CEO and co-founder of Seida Tech. So we've had it for the past 32 minutes, but now we are going on to the break, and when we come back, we'll talk about his podcasting journey and all that, you know what I mean? So yeah, stay tuned. I'm your host, Lesego M, Daddy Report, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy like Kyron. Cheers. Welcome back to Backroom Convos. I'm your host, Lesego M, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy like Kyron. So, for those of you who just joined us on the line, we have Sethu Nzimande, a CEO and co-founder of the name
Seida
Tech. So yeah, so for those of you who just joined us, we have him on the line for the past 32 minutes asking him questions around tech. We're talking everything tech today. So we've had him for the past 2 minutes, I think. And before we went to the break, I wanted to ask you to say, like, I was reading a blog. Was it a blog blog post, and it was saying that in 2024, SA will be receiving its first batch of electricity cars. Do you think, looking at the state of our economy, do you think we're ready to have electric cars in SA?
I think we already do, actually.
Yeah.
There's like everywhere. There's like in especially major cities around Joburg. Like I know Sandton, they have spots. Even going down to Durban, there's a lot of electric infrastructure that's kind of in there. You know what I'm saying? Both BMW, Porsches, there's like Taycans and stuff which are going around, and also it's there, and there's always a market for it, because at the end of the day, as much as the majority like within South Africa is definitely struggling under the unemployment line, but there is a small amount of people that are extremely wealthy, and with that wealth they will be splurging around electric vehicles.
No, I see. Like, I just want to get your thoughts around this. You know, there's people that say, you know, tech is coming in, all these AI taking over, you know what I mean? And you know, in SA particular, I'd make a perfect example with like the electric cars. There's petrol attendants. Now you don't need a petrol attendant to charge a car, you know what I mean? And I'm like, that's a job loss. And on top of that, we still have a very high unemployment rate, you know? So what do you have to say to like people who say that, to say like, yo, this AI is coming for jobs? What do you have to say to that?
I say that at the end of the day, industries always revolutionize, always change, and there's always a positive and negative around them. Like, for example, back into the age of around 1910, or was it?
Yeah,
1910. But around earlier ages, there was a time where there was with horse and carriages. That was a whole industry. There was so many businesses and people who were working around that space. So they had the horses. There had to be people who were taking care of the horses and breeding them, horse breeding, which is a huge thing. And then above that, there was hooves. Within the hooves, there's like, you know, there needs to be that metal, like, you know, that would like protect the horses basically. So that was like blacksmith. That was also a really big industry. There was cars. Cars was also a industry. And when cars came in, it changed a lot of the situation within that space, and a lot were lost. A lot of livelihoods were lost, but it transformed into big factories in terms of the pollution, in terms of, you know, factory, the factory line which is created by Ford Motor Works, that is like, changed things. It created something else which actually allowed people to live better and live just bigger within the whole thing, and getting things at a quicker rates and all of that. And when I move forward into this age that we're in now, as much as there is a lot of fear around AI and where it's going, where what it can potentially do, and the damages that it can actually cause, I think there's a lot more within. I'm personally an optimist around that space, because it feels like we have a lot more access to create things that we never were able to in the past at a rate that wasn't before understood. And if we as South Africans stop and just like keep that stuff away from us, we will never catch up. We'll never advance better than we are, as like, you know, within our spaces, within our industries. Because at the end of the day, AI is here. It is what the world is into. So it's up to us to accept that on time, because at the end of the day, it's going to be accepted regardless. But once it's accepted, there's going to be certain people who are ahead of other people in terms of adopting. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, that's what it is. That's how it is. That it's going to happen. It is happening. It has happened. It's changing a lot of the way people work and how people do things, and it's allowing people to easier to do things than it ever has for a lot of different spaces, especially around us a lower level of entry to creating something, a lower level of entry into managing something, and slow us down, ourselves down as South Africans. Even should be a level of, I think my co-host Mo was always like, there should be a level of governance around AI and what should be, ethically accepted and not, which is something that governments and will be something that will be observed, will be improved over time. But AI is right, we cannot afford to miss as South Africans and personally as the youth of SA.
Yeah, so do you think, looking at the trajectory of how things are moving, the electric cars, as you mentioned, it's taking places by storm, do you think more has to be invested into the tech space?
Yes, but mindfully, I'm gonna be honest, mindfully.
Yeah.
That I think a lot more high quality tech solutions should be invested into. But not, it should be a greater amount that should be dedicated, but rather it should be a proper observation and evaluation of the quality of maybe an idea or where it's gone further along the lines of, or where it's coming from, rather than just saying that, yes, there should just be more money, but there should rather maybe be more education around it. It should be a lot more, not necessarily education around school, because everybody knows that, like, the schooling system is in itself, I don't want to say broken, but it is limiting. So there should be extracurricular ways as to developing ourselves.
Yeah. So I just wanted to read out something. This is what I read about you. It said some days when you came back from school, you were learning stuff around mechanical engineering, civil engineering. So how does that correlate to what you do now in tech? Like, I was saying that reading that about you and knowing that now you're in the tech space, how does that correlate to like civil engineering or your interest in engineering?
It was actually the engineering that was like, I was highly, I don't want to say highly, I just, growing up, because my because my dad was an engineer, I actually was supposed to go within that path. And it was only around matric where I actually got awoken, and not necessarily awoken, but I understood what it is I wanted to do with my life if I wasn't in the state of thinking that I could fail at it. Because initially, growing up, I was drilled that was like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Having a proper profession is everything. Qualification. Especially a black individuals within the middle class. That is like, yo, that's all you need, and you get your job, you get everything. But as I was starting to observe it, I was starting to see a lot around me, like people who were going for their qualifications, were struggling for it, sometimes struggling for qualifications they didn't even want and can't get jobs around. It's not a lot to be created. So I realized that engineering in myself and personally was in my head was the safe bet to go for. And then I understood when I started to read up, and not necessarily read up, but understood myself and what I truly was deeply interested in. And I always had a deep interest for a lot of, how can I say, startup stories, a lot of hearing the legend of Facebook and how it started, Tesla, and that is like, yo, it gave me that thing of like, yo, I would love to create a solution. I would love to create something that people didn't know that they needed, and create a proper brand around that, which allows people to feel something. And that's when I was had a really deep interest around business, and that's what I branched into going into university, into my first year in University of Pretoria. That I was carried on with that. And I realized that, okay, having my roots in understanding learning within business, but then also pursuing understanding of tech, of coding, of marketing through my own means, because I realized that you can learn anything through the internet. Shout out to 2020 pandemic, because that was a time where I really expanded and exploded my head in terms of online courses and what was possible to know. So that I guess that's the journey of the this discovery of me being in tech, I guess, and I found a group of people that have the same ambition as me, but different skill sets, and we all kind of work together to make our baby and make our reality, basically.
I hear you. I hear you. You did mention that you studied in the University of Pretoria, and you studied bachelor's of commerce, bachelor's in commerce and business management. Yeah. So I just want to know from you to say, like, how much of what you studied is a contributing factor to the success of your company today?
I'm gonna be real, almost nothing. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be honest, but I'll be real. Let me be honest. Yeah, truth matter. Studying business, it will definitely give you an understanding of the fundamentals, but it will not like, I don't know, it won't strengthen you and give you a foundation of truly pursuing what you need to pursue. One thing's for sure, one truly made everything around us was basically our ability as a group, as a team of dreamers, to learning outside in terms of the online courses that are available, a lot of them being free, in terms of the YouTube, in terms of around that space, and being in a constant state of experimentation to be like, okay, let's try this out, let's see how this works. That in itself is what grew most of the knowledge that we have now and the clientele that we have now. Not a lot of it was in school, but school has given us the foundation and the discipline to apply ourselves to something for an extended period of time and seeing it through, while, giving us that freedom of like, okay, we're students within what we're doing, and we have that level of support by our university, because there's a large network of people that we can interact with, that we can talk to, and the location of it means that there's a lot, you can easily meet people, especially within the university space. So I would say no, it doesn't help a lot. So you can study almost anything, but have your ambition somewhere else. But if you have your mindset to be learning it and seeing it through the classroom, then you can actually create something.
No, I hear you. So I did read up as well that in 2020, is it in 2020, in June, starting from 2021, you were a freelance copywriter.
Yeah.
So what's the story behind that?
That one was like basically understanding the skill of the power of the words that you use to describe what you need to. So I always had the impression that, oh no, pictures sell products. When you actually, it's the words that you read that make you feel a certain way, level of emotion. And it was an aspect of marketing that I have like a really deep interest in. And being able to write things, to put things into in a certain way in order to create a result, from either writing an email to generate leads, writing a script for maybe an advert, or there's so many things around the words that you use is such an important and crucial part of marketing, which I love getting into and starting out within that space. And building a client base within there, that it was actually really beneficial for us and me personally, in terms of one of the skill sets where I was growing at the time.
Yeah. So for people who just joined us on the line, we have Sethu Nzimande. He is the CEO and co-founder of Seida Tech. We've had her for the past 46 minutes now. So when we come back, the last 15 minutes, we'll talk about the podcast, and we already started talking about copywriting, and we'll ask more questions around that. For those of you who just joined us, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to get a notification each and every time we drop a new episode. Let's meet after the break. Cheers. Welcome back to Backroom Convos. I'm your host, Lesego M, the report, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy like Cairo. Listen, on the line we have Sethu Nzimande. He's the CEO and co-founder of Seida Tech, a tech startup. We've had him for the past 47 minutes on the line, breaking down a lot of complex questions that we had to ask him, and hopefully some of you get to learn a lot from the questions that we asked him for the past 45 to 46 minutes. And Sethu, before we went to the break, I just wanted to ask you more questions around copywriting. So, and I forgot to ask this one question. So to someone who doesn't know what copywriting is in layman's sense, or what could you say to that person?
I could basically describe it as the words that are used within anything to do with advertising and marketing. So basically, certain words that are used. So from print ads, what is written in it, the amount. It doesn't have to be, it's not something that's like, okay, the more words, the better, like a blog post in journal writing, but rather the most effective use of words in order to get the goal, or your marketing goal.
Yeah. So now we want us to talk about the podcast. You're a co-host of Y.H.M.A.D, right? So I want us to talk a bit about that, like how much of the copywriting skill that you were able to implement in the podcast to make sure that the podcast is where it is now. Like how much of the skill?
Actually quite a bit, or the majority of the skill was found actually from my deep love for content creation. That's actually what actually guided us into creating both a proper unique experience and also our partnerships with Tower Productions for video element. Yeah. So for me, starting out last year, I started creating like videos around the journeys that we're kind of having, or that I was kind of having as a startup entrepreneur. That I was like, okay, I did this, and I recorded stuff around it, and I told the story around it. Then me and my friend Mo, who we always had incredible conversations and terrible experiences. We were like, yo, it's just like every idea. I'm sure every conversation, I'm sure you had this also when you started your everything's like, yo, we should start a podcast, which is just basically us talking up that make us go down. And part of the content skills I had grown and harnessed and was in the process of harnessing, I used that and transferred that into the You Had Me at Damn, and basically the experience around it.
Wow, dude, that's dope, man. That's dope. So that was my next question actually, to say like, why the name, So I think you just answered my question around it, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to ask this again, like why, like looking at where the podcast is now, do you think the problem that you had initially to say like, this is the problem that I'm looking to solve with this podcast, do you think you are achieving that with every episode that you release?
Actually, I think we are achieving that, but not at the rate that I want it to be.
Well, it's not always the case.
Well, I mean, no, not in terms of numbers, because of course numbers can be satisfied. But I'm talking the conversations that we're trying to like grow into having, and the community engagement that we're trying to build and grow into, because we do have like a couple of people like who tune in and give us the insights, and even have people that like come up to Mo and say, and like, identify him from the podcast. I don't get that though. I don't get that same recognition. It's messed up. I know. Even though
I'm surprised because people know you from TikTok, because I showed some of the people that I work with in the podcast to say like, do you know this guy? They're like, yeah, I know him. And I'm like, when you said what you just said to me now, I'm like, how is that?
Always call out the TikTok and the Instagram, you know what I'm saying? and
I'm like,
be around Seida, but they'll never call out "you had me at them." It's like unless they know me and it branches out. But Mo, on the other hand, I think because he's a person that like, okay, the "You Had Me at Them" podcast is like it was his way of like kind of like branching out and trying out something new and experimenting. He doesn't have his like own personal like I don't know, content creation. So people just like always just like hit up, "Oh, Mo."
Yeah.
And also he's the guy with the golden voice. That's the AKA. Yeah, he's the man golden voice. That's his AKA. I'm not content creator, but he's the man. Like when you hear him speak, you're like, wow, this guy needs
No, I hear you. So like what are some of the challenges that you guys, face that people don't know about? As far as like face casting.
Like seeing us on YouTube, you'd see that we are the places that we actually shoot at is like sometimes different. We've had like difficulty in terms of finding a proper spot to record. So we've always, every time we have to like have a shooting day, we have to like, okay, we're gonna shoot where we're gonna, and then sometimes it's one place, and then the venue goes bad because a person double booked us or cancels or whatever. So then we have to down to finding the proper places. So that's been one of the biggest challenges, finding a home, really finding a home our own. But one thing is the people at Yumi Cafe in Hatfield have been very helpful to us, and it's why we record episodes there. The vibe makes it clean and proper, and the videos comes out really good. Another part of the challenges is basically on my side, definitely finding the time. Like sometimes I like struggle with that with all the stuff I have going on, both finishing he's running my business, and it's like, yo, I'm not where I want to be in terms of creative output for the content that we have and stuff. But those are all things that we overcome with time management, with productivity, with getting just like overcoming procrastination, really. And we find our way, basically. We find our way. One thing's for sure is that when we like recording podcasts, you always find creative solutions to things. Like, for example, this in terms of hosting, it's like, yo, I'm out here in Pretoria, Hatfield side in Pretoria, that it's like, yo, two different places, but we're able to have this conversation so easily. And it's those things that you find on the way that it's never easy, it's never as quick as possible. And then also for me, on my side, the team's happy with the numbers, but because for me, I always like even having as high as my numbers as possible, I'm not happy with the numbers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what's your take? I just want to ask you this. What's your take as far as consistency to growth? To say like, how much do you think consistency is, like the role of consistency to the growth of your podcast? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's immense. It is a crazy. It's one of the things that like really make or break whatever you do. It's consistent and quality, because you can consistently put out bad stuff. One thing for sure. You can consistently like put out like really terrible stuff, but then if you're in the space of trying to understand yourself and experiment and produce quality, you have to match it with the high level of consistency that's required of it. So you can't just put out one good episode and then leave it for 2 months. That's something that on our side, you don't build a culture around that. You want to build a way that people constantly have something to talk about. There's constantly new content, new stuff, new discoveries, new discussions, and engagement that is being had within your audience, because that's right there is what builds up the audience. That's build up the biggest people of the past. Joe Rogan and the present, really. Joe Rogan's only big as he is because of the consistency out, and also breaking down of episodes and the difference of conversations that you'd have, because he wouldn't just have conversations with people that he liked and people that he knew, but he would have conversations on topics that need to be had, and his curiosity to other people's opinions and stuff allows for a lot of discussions. And I'd see that as the reason why the Joe Rogan experience is as big as it is.
Yeah, no, I get you. So someone who's listening to us talk about podcasting, and they have the feeling that I think I need to start this. What would you advise them to do? Like,
I would say, get over the idea that everyone has a podcast. Why should I? I think that's one of the limiting things. That's people will be like, oh no, everyone's doing podcasts now, so why should I feel like I'm late? One thing for sure is that everyone forever will be doing something. There was always new rappers coming into the scene, but at the end of the day, even back in the day, with the people that were as big as the biggest people right now came into the game when there was a lot of the people back in 2007, 2008 when Drake and Kendrick were coming in. A lot of people were rappers. But at the end of the day, they still created a name for themselves. They still experimented with what they did and over time, because the Kendrick of the start is not the Kendrick of the end. And it's only through the journey where we actually see how far we can do. We can see what we can do. Sometimes it's not as good as you thought of it in your head, but it's always different because it's outside of the theory. So I would say always create something, always try to make your way around it, and just get over the fear of being ridiculed. So self to think about the power of being like, yo, that's mine. I created it. I made that. You can skip. I love the idea of scrolling through your stuff. I'm sure you also enjoy that. Yo, I did all of these things that I made.
Yeah. Oh, bro.
It feels so good.
Yeah. So do you think, you're knowing your why? So I think the one way to know your why is to understand the problem that you're solving, right? Do you think knowing your why can be a contributing factor to the success in anything that you do?
Yeah, because it allows you. I do agree with that, because it allows you to get through stuff than the regular, more than the average people. Because if you don't know your why, you'll get to a stumbling block, then you'll wonder to yourself, wait, why am I doing this? But then when you understand why you're doing this and who you're doing it for, because sometimes a level of power and not doing things for yourself, that it truly allows you to get over and get through certain things.
Yeah. So this is the final question that I wanted to ask you. You did mention Kendrick, you did mention Drake. Who are we going with? Are you more of a Drake or Kendrick fan?
I'm Cole, bro. I'm Cole. I am Cole. I'm J. Cole all the way, but I'm sorry. He's because of his authenticity, or the authentic his brand and relatable his brand feels.
Yeah. So what's your take on the feature he did in Drake, or even the other feature?
He bodied him. I'm sorry.
So, bro, I think for me, this is how I felt about the project. It's because I felt like I like the Cole that I'm seeing now, because I also feel like with the Lil Yachty feature, he also bodied him. Drake bodied him, and I'm like, I think now I'm ready to hear maybe a collaborative project between Drake and J. Cole. You know what I mean? I'm like, I need to get music more from these guys, or even Kendrick, but I think that's a long shot. But it's a long shot to get Kendrick to do a song with these guys. But I'm like, J. Cole is just something else, and I really appreciate his music, bro. And as you said, the authenticity as well also counts and contributes to how I consume his music, you know what I mean? And I just wanted to get your thoughts around that. I know we went off topic with it. And final word, I'd like, you were saying?
I love the tangent.
So I just wanted to ask you, and I did say it the last time, then that was my last question, but this is my last question. what are you reading now? Like the book. Give us a book.
I'm currently rereading Shoe Dogs. Shoe Dogs. It's actually the story of Phil Knight, the creator of Nike. I read it before, and it was so empowering, and it is just incredible. The story of how Nike became one of the most iconic brands of all time, and all the stuff that kind of happened. Something like things within their favor, but a lot of determination and grit that you wouldn't think that the biggest brand that we always grew up with and always knew was there, that at some point that they didn't know, or they didn't know how big it be.
And how much of that is in correlation with what the movie is? You do know that there's a movie part of it. Like how much of that is?
It's correlated in the sense that it was more of, the book was an overall view of the Nike story, but this book was basically the focus of the most iconic shoe of all time. It wasn't even about Michael Jordan. It wasn't about Phil Knight. It was the creation of such an iconic shoe, because at that time, that's the movie in itself. And I love the movie too. The ending with the final speech, it was also one of those things that was like truly empowering, to the point that I even have like a necklace of the Jordan 1, because I understand what it means.
So I just want to ask you something, because often when I talk to people who are entrepreneurs, they say in anything that you do, you always have to have a story, because story is the reason why people relate to you. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree with that, with everyone. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, man. Thank you for joining us for the podcast. For those of you who haven't subscribed, followed, please do that so you can get a notification each and every time we drop an episode. We had on this week's episode Sethu Nzimande. He is a CEO and co-founder of Seida Tech, and we've had her for the past hour, and I appreciate him joining us. And hopefully in future, when we do like a video podcast, we'll get him, because he has so much to offer or share with us that can contribute to someone's success in tech or podcasting, you know what I mean? So this coming on another one. I think on the next one we'll be having Miss Bachelorette Friday. Are we having Miss Bachelorette? Yeah, we're having Miss Bachelorette. Stay tuned for that. So the book recommendation for the week is Shoe Dogs, story behind the Nike shoe. Go read that. Let me know what you think of the book. I'm also going to download that, give you a review and my take around it. For everyone that just joined us on the line, it's the end of the conversation that we had with Sethu Nzimande. Appreciate you, man. Have a great one, man.
All right, now thank you so much, man. Thank you. So
for people who want to follow you on your socials, can you please drop them for us?
All right, no, definitely. You can find me on Instagram at Sethu the Oracle. Instagram and TikTok, Sethu the Oracle. You can follow us on Instagram and YouTube, as well as Spotify for Y.H.M.A.D at That Damn Podcast. And Seida Tech is on Instagram, and also www.seidatech.co.za.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you lots, man.
Nah, dude, I truly appreciate being on here. I truly appreciate the platform that we're building, and just the podcast in itself, man. Like, you're doing the most, man. And this was really enjoyable. I was very nervous starting out. I was like, this is the first time we did on a podcast.
I think it's the case, you know what I mean? I think it's always the case, but as I said, I appreciate you, man. And I think if we are like doing the video podcast, I'd really like to have you on it,
Come in, man, definitely.
Okay, cheers, man. Have a great one. Thank you, guys. Let's meet on the next. Cheers.